Good morning, everybody. I'm Laura Serrant, and I'm an inclusive practice specialist and a leadership development coach. Welcome to day 7 of 31 Days of March Madness. Now, today we are moving on to the letter F, and the letter F is for fearful. Now, when you think about fearfulness, people often first think about fear. Fearfulness is a mindset. It's linked towards our worry about impending doom, anxiety, danger, real or sometimes just imagined. But actually, whether it's real or imagined, it feels real at the time. Fearfulness stops us doing the things that we want to do. Fearfulness makes us worry and anticipate the negative impact or outcomes that happen as a result of the very thing that we fear. Now, when you think of other words related to fearfulness, we think about worry, we think about danger. This worry around what might happen is something that we feel protects us, stops us making the wrong errors, stops us making the wrong decisions. And the opposite of feeling fearful is being bold, being calm, being confident. There's an old adage around fearfulness, particularly in leadership and business, which says that the letters fear, F-E-A-R, stands for false evidence appearing real. I'm not sure whether I really agree with that wholeheartedly, because sometimes fear is very real. The fear of being in a dark place and being lost is real. The fear of something happening to a loved one is real. But fear is not always negative, and that's where I disagree with false evidence. Fear is evidence in and of itself, but it's evidence of what's going on in our own minds as much as of what we think might be happening in the real world. So for me, the suggestion that fear is unreasonable or unwarranted, I can't quite hold with that. I have an innate fear of heights. It's completely irrational. I've never fallen from a great height. I've never known anyone fall from a great height. But when I get up on anything from a chair to a cliff top, my legs are shaking. But here's the thing. It's not the fear that is important here. It's what we do with it. Fear itself and fearfulness is actually triggered from part of our brain called the amygdala. And it brings about a visceral, a body level, cell level response, which comes out differently in different people. We all hear of fight and flight, but there is also faint and freeze. And we probably have any and all of those things. I certainly have the freeze when it comes to height or heights. But fearfulness also triggers action, conscious action too. So it's what we do with that fear. So despite my fears, I still climb the mountain. Despite my fears, and I might be wailing, weeping, and sometimes even occasionally ugly crying, I still climb the ladder. Fearfulness, as Disraeli once said, fear makes us feel our humanity. And there is nothing greater a power we have than to be totally, wholly ourselves and wholly human. But that requires us to accept the whole of ourselves perfectly and imperfectly, and choose to act in the light of that. When we are intentional and consistent with our actions and reactions in the face of fear, we harness our power, and we have all of that at our disposal. And here is the thing. Sometimes we act because we are fearful in a positive way. A few years ago, I received an award from the Power List and charted number 8 as the eighth most important, I suppose, but really impactful black person in Britain. But the woman who came at number 1 was Gina Miller. And she stood up and said something which has always stayed with me. When people ask her about why she did what she did, and you can look up to see what she actually did, they said to her, "You must be fearless." And she said, "I do what I do because I'm fearful, not because I'm fearless." And often we do what we do. We do great things because we are fearful of what happens if we don't. We are fearful of the impact on ourselves, on others, on our communities, and even our society if we don't do something different in the face of our fears, or because of our fearful thoughts, or what could happen if we don't. So far from being irrational, far from always being not useful, far from always being unreasonable, fearfulness is sometimes the fuel that guides us to greatness. And we must remember, within fearfulness is always hope. Either hope something won't happen or hope something will. And within hope, there is always some fear of not acting, of inaction, or of standing silent while things happen. Be fearful of inaction. Be fearful of not moving towards your goals. Be fearful of what could happen when we do nothing. The lion and the lioness, the strongest, most feared animals in the system, the top of the food chain, use their fear as energy, and they use energy to move forward. Be fearful, be forceful, but above all, be human. I'll see you tomorrow.